The Great Lakes blizzard of 2024 hit Michigan with a fury that hadn't been seen in decades. For 5 days straight, snow fell at 3 inches per hour, powered by 80 miles per hour winds that turned the state into a frozen wasteland. In the small town of Cedar Ridge, population 3,200, the Williams family huddled together in their living room as their world disappeared under 6 feet of snow. Robert Williams, a laid-off auto worker, wrapped his wife Janet and their twin 5-year-olds, Mason and Mia, in every blanket they owned. The power had been out for 3 days, and their propane heater had run dry yesterday. The temperature inside their small house had dropped to 35 degrees, and ice was forming on the windows from the inside. "Daddy, I'm so cold," little Mia whispered, her lips turning blue despite the layers of clothing. Robert held his children closer, his own body shaking from cold and desperation. Their car was buried under a mountain of snow, and even if they could dig it out, the roads were impassable. They were completely cut off. Janet, a part-time nurse, tried to stay positive for the children. "It's like we're camping inside our house," she said with forced cheerfulness, but Robert could see the fear in her eyes. They had eaten the last of their canned food yesterday. The pipes had frozen, and they were melting snow for drinking water. That night, as his family slept fitfully under every piece of clothing they owned, Robert used his phone's last 5% battery to send a desperate message. "President Trump, we're trapped in Michigan blizzard. No heat, no food, no help coming. My twins are freezing. Please don't let my children become casualties of this storm." He attached a photo of Mason and Mia sleeping, their breath visible in the frigid air. Then his phone died, leaving them in complete darkness and silence. On the 4th morning without power, Robert heard something that made his heart skip, the distant rumble of heavy machinery. Through the frosted window, he could barely make out snowplows working their way down their street, followed by what looked like military vehicles. "Janet, wake up! Someone's coming!" The family pressed against the window, watching as National Guard trucks began stopping at houses, soldiers checking on residents and distributing supplies. When a soldier knocked on their door, Robert nearly cried with relief. "Sir, we're conducting wellness checks." "How many people in this house?" "4," Robert replied, his voice hoarse from the cold. "2 adults, 2 5-year-olds. We've been without heat for 3 days." The young guardsman's expression grew serious. "Sir, we have orders to evacuate families with children to the emergency shelter at the high school. We also have heaters and food." As they prepared to leave their frozen home, the guardsman delivered news that stunned Robert. "Sir, President Trump received reports about the situation here and personally ordered additional National Guard deployment. He's actually flying in today to check on the relief efforts." Robert couldn't believe it. His desperate message had somehow reached the highest office in the land. At the high school shelter, the Williams family was greeted with warmth, hot food, and medical attention for the children. The gym was filled with cots, but it felt like paradise after days in their frozen house. Mason and Mia, finally warm and fed, began playing with other children while Janet received medical care from Red Cross volunteers. That afternoon, word spread through the shelter like wildfire. President Trump was coming. Despite the dangerous conditions, he was flying into the disaster zone to personally assess the situation and meet with affected families. For the first time in days, Robert allowed himself to hope that help was really on the way. The sound of helicopters cutting through the howling wind brought everyone in the shelter to their feet. Through the school's windows, they could see Marine One landing in the snow-covered football field, its rotors whipping up a white tornado. Robert held his twins' hands as they watched the most powerful man in the world step out into the brutal Michigan weather. Trump entered the shelter with his coat covered in snow, immediately walking among the families, shaking hands and listening to their stories. When he reached the Williams family, Mia ran up to him without hesitation. "Are you the president man who's going to help us?" she asked with 5-year-old directness. Trump knelt down to her eye level, his expression gentle and warm. "Yes, sweetheart, I'm here to help. Are you feeling better now that you're warm?" Mia nodded enthusiastically. "Daddy was so worried about us, but now we're safe." Trump looked up at Robert with understanding and respect. "Your daddy did exactly the right thing reaching out for help, Mr. President," Robert said, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for coming. We thought we were forgotten." Trump shook his head firmly. "Robert, American families are never forgotten, especially when they're fighting for their lives. That's not who we are as a country." Trump spent the next hour meeting with every family, but he made special time for the Williams family. He announced that emergency heating assistance would be available immediately, that the National Guard would remain until every home was habitable, and most importantly, that no family would return to an unsafe home. "Robert," Trump said, pulling him aside, "I understand you're between jobs right now. There's going to be a lot of rebuilding work needed here over the next few months. I'm going to make sure you're first in line for the Federal Emergency Employment Program." For the first time in months, Robert saw a future beyond just surviving day to day. 2 weeks later, Robert Williams stood in his living room, now filled with the warm glow of a brand new furnace. The Emergency Heating Assistance Program had not only restored heat to their home, but upgraded their entire system. The twins played happily on the floor, their cheeks pink with warmth instead of cold. Janet bustled around their kitchen, preparing dinner in a home that felt alive again. The Federal Emergency Food Assistance had stocked their pantries, and the stress lines around her eyes had begun to fade. "Robert, can you believe this is the same house where we almost froze?" she called out, smiling genuinely for the first time in months. Through their new double-pane windows, installed as part of the emergency weatherization program, Robert could see his neighbors working on similar home improvements. The entire neighborhood was being transformed, made more resilient against future storms. His new job with the Federal Emergency Reconstruction Team started next week, providing steady income and purpose. The doorbell rang, and Robert opened it to find a delivery truck with a package addressed to the Brave Williams family. Inside was a handwritten note from President Trump. "Robert, Janet, Mason, and Mia, I wanted to check on America's toughest family. I hope you're staying warm and looking forward to spring. Your courage during the blizzard showed everyone what American families are made of." Also in the package were winter coats for each family member and a teddy bear for each twin, along with a photo of Trump with the family at the shelter sign. "To Mason and Mia, stay warm, dream big, and remember that your country will always be there when you need us." That evening, as the Williams family sat around their warm living room, Mason looked up at his father and asked, "Daddy, when I grow up, can I help people like the president man helped us?" Robert smiled, pulling his son close. "Mason, that's exactly what I hope you'll do. That's how we keep America strong, by helping each other." Outside, snow began to fall again, but this time it looked beautiful instead of threatening. The Williams family was safe, warm, and surrounded by a community that had learned the true meaning of resilience and the power of leadership that puts families first.